didn't ask for enough likes again. This is the last part of the 50 Shades series. I don't know why I'm wearing a Christmas sweater. We tracked down the original fan fiction for 50 Shades of Grey, which was called Master of the Universe by Snow Queen's Ice Dragon. So I figured if this gets 10,000 likes, which is a lot, I will read the fan fiction, review the fan fiction, compare it to how it changed with the first 50 Shades. So that means I'm gonna have to read the first 50 Shades too and kind of compare it to Twilight. Last time I visited my parents, I even grabbed my old copy of Twilight. In addition to that, I will read the 50 Shades books and talk about how they were adapted and changed for the big screen. And hopefully by that time, in the time that it takes to get hopefully close to 10,000 likes, I will have maybe an Audible sponsorship to go along with that. Who knows? So here we are, part 3, because this has been a hell to get through. So I figured we'd bring drinking into the equation. When Christian stalks Anna to her vacation with her mom in Atlanta, he asks for a drink. He says he wants a gin and tonic, Hendrix, and if there's no Hendrix, Bombay Sapphire, cucumber with the Hendrix, lime with the Bombay. Sadly, I did not have cucumber or lime on hand, and I figured that it would be irresponsible to go to a grocery store during a pandemic just to get things to make drinks for a movie review. So let's start with the Hendrix, because apparently this was his drink of choice. No cucumber, but that's okay. Smelling it, I would say this would pair better with lime. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it has a citrus scent to it, but here we go. That's actually not bad. I'm gonna be honest, this is like some fancy tonic water. We had this like really fancy elderflower tonic water in the fridge. And now let's try the Bombay. That is also not bad. These are actually gonna be a delight to drink. I was gonna be honest, I thought I was gonna hate these, so I had a packet of Emergency that I was gonna just blend in one. So yeah, 50 Shades freed, as in I am 50 Shades freed of this bullshit, of all of this disaster, except I just keep finding new ways to bring myself back into it, and that's okay. So before we go on, in the last video, I actually totally forgot to mention that he fingers her in an elevator. That's what I used for my thumbnail. And I actually realized that that's what they had used for like the teaser sneak peek for this movie. And Susan's still trying to tell you that she's not into this for the sex. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what she's freed from, because this movie starts with a wedding. And in my experience, freedom does not tend to come from weddings. So we're right back on the Twilight timeline. The last one is starting with a wedding, but I'm really hoping that there's just no CGI demon baby by the end of this. So let's keep going. So sadly, Christian Grey is apparently not rich enough to have his own island like the Cullens were. So she's kind of out in public, and he's upset that she's wearing a bikini, because that's his property. And while they're away, the old boss that we saw at the end of the last film has broken in to Grey Enterprises, because apparently security does not exist in this entire universe, even though every single one of them has like private security detail. I don't know. It's dumb. And I guess get some data. They obviously get the security footage, realize it's him, still can't find him, and Christian finally reveals that, yeah, that helicopter accident was not actually an accident. It did not look like an accident. So somehow the cops have not managed to figure out what happened there, even though, you know, it'd be pretty obvious if somebody tampered with a helicopter, but whatever. And once they get back, they end up running into a guy named Link, who happens to be Elena, you know, the Predator's ex-husband, and nothing really happens here. So either way, they get back and they give her an additional amount of security, because obviously it looks like she's kind of being stalked by her old boss, who she allegedly got fired. And then we had a conversation that just made me want to just fall back into myself and crawl away. They start having the kid conversation, as in they did not have the conversation about kids before they got married. And obviously Christian is not open for kids, so just no. The kid conversation should become long before a proposal's even on the table. And of course, one of Christian's main reasons for not thinking he wants to be a parent, specifically not right now, is that he doesn't want to share her with anyone. Yikes. 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 Oh, we got alcohol. Yay. She goes back to work and she's gotten a promotion, and this redhead lady is not happy about it.
I got a promotion? And you weren't even here.
Definitely not petty at all, but it's all good. She's still got her little security detail here named Sawyer. And then her assistant makes some like really inappropriate jokes, and like, sexual harassment's not a joke.
Can we find a spot for him?
I might have an opening.
It's not a joke. Treat people the way you want to be treated. So now she's having a meeting with an up-and-coming writer, and Christian just like busts in, like doesn't knock, doesn't wait, opens the door, and is like, hi, can I have a moment with my wife? While she's in a meeting, and then literally says like, oh yeah, are all your writers guys? Obviously there's gonna be male authors that she's having meetings with in full view of the rest of the office, because her office, when it's like all glass windows everywhere. I thought we were gonna be better, Christian. I thought we were gonna be better. Either way, his whole reason for busting in is for something super serious. Like, we got an update on the guy that's no, it has nothing to do with the fact that her boss is stalking them and potentially trying to kill them. It's because she hasn't changed her last name in the emails. It's still Steele. That's why he's upset. She just immediately calms down and it's all good. And he's like, I'm gonna pick you up later. And then they go on a nice little ride through town, which is easily an Audi commercial, a huge Audi promo. Is it Audi, either way, you know what I mean, the car, which again is something else that's very similar from Twilight that I forgot to mention. Edward Cullen had a silver Audi. That was like a defining feature about him, and it was kind of ugly in the movie. And then this one gets it like the fancy racing roadster style, until finally they get to the house that she saw from the Sound when they were sailing in the last movie. And he's bought it for her, and for some reason hired a real estate agent that wants to like tear the whole thing down. The real estate agent's being super catty, not really talking to her, talking more to Christian, flirting with Christian blatantly in front of Anna. And now it's Anna's turn to get a little bit territorial in the situation.
If you want this job, I suggest you stop making eyes at my husband and keep your hands to yourself.
Because Christian is so turned on that Anna laid down the law, he lets her drive the Audi back to the city before quickly realizing that they're being stalked by a Dodge. So I'm assuming this is supposed to be a very tense moment, has this like funky pop R&B track playing behind them as they're driving through, which just makes it feel even more like a car commercial than it does like an epic getaway. But yeah, they escape, and rather than taking a second to think about like, okay, who's tailing us? Why were they tailing us? How did they know we were out there? I'm so confused. They just have sex in the car, in the parking lot. Writing. But either way, they end up looking at the footage that they managed to get of the vehicle at different traffic lights, and they realize, that doesn't look like the old boss. That looks like a girl. So at this point, they definitely realize that something's up, and it looks like multiple people are trying to bring them down. So logically, Christian goes on a business trip to New York. Boy's got private jets, private helicopters, and he's got to stay in New York overnight. That makes sense. He obviously wants Anna to come with him, but she's like, no, I gotta work. Or why Christian Grey, the billionaire with the private jet and the helicopter, can't fly someone in from New York if he's so concerned. But either way, he actually leaves. So her old roommate, who is still dating Christian's brother Ethan, invites her out for some drinks. And we all know how Christian feels about drinks. But while they're out, Kate, the old roommate, reveals that the boss, Jack Hyde, had actually stolen a bunch of files on the Grey family from Grey Enterprises. I don't really know why they would have had access to that from the workplace. It's all like, none of it really makes sense. But either way, Christian had not told her that a bunch of the information that had been stolen had been private information about Christian, not just regular stuff from Grey Enterprises or Industries, whatever it is. And she specifically tries to like stop drinking, which I just find is interesting. Like, she's essentially trained herself not to drink. I am, on the other hand, training myself to drink when we talk about Christian Grey's abusive behavior. But they leave, she goes home, and somehow, even with the two security details, one that was following her around, one that was supposed to be stationed at the penthouse, this dude still manages to sneak into the sex penthouse. What is up with your security detail? How the hell can you not stop this from happening? Like, they say it's because he somehow pretended to be an elevator employee, but still? And this dude is super pissed because he lost his job for sexually harassing her, and I guess his new plan is just to try and ruin her life by even more stalking and attempted murder. Clearly this guy is not mentally well, but it goes from like 0 to 1,000 real fast with this dude. And of course, Sawyer had been letting Christian know that Anna was out drinking, so he's home, and he's upset, and he showers, and again, I see his pubes! I don't need to see his pubes! Either way, he's angry, and he doesn't give Anna any kind of attention or affection that he probably should be giving her. That's probably when you want affection from them, is when you've been attacked. And then the redhead chick is like super interested in what happened to her. She's like, oh my god, I heard this happen. Jack Hyde was coming at you. What do you think he wanted? Based on the storytelling prowess of the last couple movies, I'm gonna guess that she was the woman driving the vehicle that was chasing them through the streets of Seattle during the Audi commercial scene. But the workday finishes, she heads home, and Christian's like immediately like, let's go to the red room. home. Because my guess is that Christian's feeling a lack of control in his life, and that's an area where he feels like he's very in control because that's just how he is. Then it actually gets worse because he's using the Red Room time to punish her, to the point that she has to say the safe word like 5 times before he stops. Run away! So yeah, they have a conversation where Anna's like, hey, you're using this to punish me. This isn't love. He's like, how do you think it makes me feel when you don't listen to me? This is what it feels like, the lack of control. I'm like, oh my God, run. And they just decide to have a nice little vacation to Christian's little private ski lodge. But it's the summer, so there's no skiing, but it's fine. So she ends up having a nightmare of this dude and gets up in the middle of the night. And then this movie single-handedly ruins ice cream by having her rub a bunch of ice cream all over his hairy chest and then having her lick it off his hairy chest. That's the real nightmare. Cuts the next day, ice cream's ruined now. And I just noticed that Jose is still around. You know, Jose that tried to make a move on her when she was drunk, who essentially tried to assault her while she was drunk and saying no. He's still being invited to things because I guess at least she's consistent in the company she keeps. So when they head back, we get a little bit more information about Hyde's backstory, and we find out that he was in and out of foster homes in Detroit, just like Christian was. Spooky. At this point, one of the other themes that's been going on is that Kate thinks that Christian's brother has been cheating on her, but it cuts to them at a club, and Christian orders a bunch of champagne, and then he proposes to her. Amazing. Proposals in the club, and he's having this whole nice romantic, like, there comes a time when you have to settle down, but it's like there's like the oonch, oonch, oonch club music in the background and all the different colored lights going off, and it's just... I love it.
Hey, what's going on?
So now Anna's back to work trying to get everything back to normal, and a detective comes in and is like, yo, your old boss Hyde is basically trying to say that you guys had a consensual sexual relationship that you ended and then used as manipulation to get him fired. And he's using this to try to get bail. And then thankfully the judge ain't savvy with this and is like, hey, that, you know, I think we all know that he had a little bit more in mind than talking when he broke into a penthouse by pretending to be somebody and then broke into Gray Enterprises. Like, I don't actually understand how he even got eligible for bail on the sheer amount of things that he did, or why she wasn't granted some kind of like restraining order against him. Not that it would have mattered for this, but she ends up setting the bail at $500,000. And this is a movie we know he's getting out. Now, yet again, one of the other themes of this movie that I just have neglected to mention is that this Dr. Green has been trying to get a hold of Anna for an appointment like the entire time the movie's been happening, and then finally gets in contact, and it turns out that she's pregnant because she hasn't been regularly taking her shots. Because who can remember such things when you're constantly having sex? So again, this is now officially really mirroring Twilight in terms of like the pregnancy and stuff, except in this, Christian is super pissed that she's pregnant, yells at her, and then bails on her ass and gets drunk. And then says a bunch of stuff that lets us know that he's literally jealous of an unborn baby.
You'll choose him over me.
Then as Anna's putting him to bed, his phone goes off and she realizes that, oh my God, he went out and got drunk with Mrs. Robinson. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Anna hates you more than you will know. Whoa. You deserve to be in jail. And then when they do finally have the conversation the next day, he's rolling her eyes at her as if it's so ridiculous that she's upset that he was out talking to his childhood abuser. I just can't. And then finally, she like lays down the law and she's like, hell yeah, I would choose our unborn child over you because that's what good parents do. Basically hits him with the sorry that your mom sucked, but I won't. So she goes back to work and gets a call from Mia, who is Christian's sister, and surprise, it's the old boss. And he's kidnapped Mia because he somehow managed to post his $500,000 in bail. And he's like, it should have been me. I should have been Christian Grey, and I want $5 million in 2 hours, or I'm gonna start dismembering her. I did not realize that the sex movies got so intense as they continued on. So she gets to the bank where obviously they call Christian and are like, yo, your wife is here asking for $5 million in cash immediately. And to my surprise, for once, he actually like pays attention. And at first he's like, this isn't because of our fight today, is it? But I guess he just actually realizes that something must be wrong and tells the bank to just do whatever she wants. Give her anything she asks for, which none of this matches his prior behavior, but you know, we'll take it. It's all good. And immediately after this, this Taylor, the driver slash security, is all like, we can't find your sister. Mia is missing. So the bank does end up giving her the money. Dude's like, go out the back and give your phone to the driver. You won't be needing it anymore, because you always warn people when you're going to take their phone. So obviously she turns to the bank dude and is all like, can I have your phone? And he's just like, yeah, I guess the multi-millionaire slash billionaire said that I had to do whatever you wanted. So yes, here's my cell phone. And damn, I'm good. Here's the redheaded bitch from work getting ready to pick her up with the money. And of course, when she asks for the phone, Anna just gives her the bank dude's phone. It gets ditched out the window, so she still has her phone, so she can still be tracked. Because if there's one thing we know about Christian Grey, it's that he's very good at tracking cell phones. We get to the boss dude, but it looks like he's been punched like 30 times, or that they've injected blood directly underneath his eyes. He looks rough. So he gets his money and he starts to slap her around because he's super upset, and hitting women just makes him feel it's just great. So he ends up like kicking her in the face, but it's all good because Anna's got a gun, and shoots him in the leg. And then boom, in comes the cops. In comes Christian. The day is saved. And then it cuts to the hospital where he has the conversation with his mom where he's like, I thought she was leaving me. And then the mom says, not this one. She's tenacious, which don't let anybody tell you that if you're not tenacious, if you leave somebody who's abusive and says that they're going to be jealous of your unborn child. But thankfully the baby's fine in Christian society. He's finally okay with being a dad, and it's all good, and he's just scared because of his upbringing, and that makes sense. But a lot of that was more than fear of messing up. And then we find out that the reason why the redhead was in on all this was because apparently old boss Hyde used to film himself having sex with all his secretaries and was using it as blackmail. And there's just so much going on in this. Just absolutely so much. It then cuts to a news report talking about shares of Lincoln Industries being suspended after it was found that the CEO, Mr. Friggin' Robinson himself, used investor funds to bail out Hyde. It cuts to Elena watching this news report looking pretty pissed. So did she ask her ex-husband to misuse company funds to bail out a guy so he could kill Anna? Like, what was the play here? And then the big reveal as it starts trickling out is that Christian was in the same foster home as old boss. So that's why he's jealous. He's like, if I had been adopted by that family, I could be Christian Grey. And then we get this like great line from Christian.
If I'd been left in the system, who knows how it would have turned out.
Dude, you're like really abusive and a control freak, and you use sex as a form of punishment. I don't want to know what worse would be. It's like, I get it. He's not that kind of shitty, but boy has issues. Either way, it ends in a big old montage of all their nicer moments, because you always look on the bright side of these situations. It is actually better than the ending of Twilight in terms of like a musical montage. And then of course it has to end on the Red Room. But thankfully, it has a nice little post-credits scene that it shows him playing with their kid and how good he is at being a dad and how she's pregnant again and they're all like cozy, living their good life. So, you know, in terms of babies being implemented into one of these stories, it's a hell of a lot better than Twilight. I think that finally does it. Now, kind of looking back at the whole thing, I don't really know what I've experienced. And honestly, this also doesn't feel like an ending because it just pans over Mrs. Robinson, but then they don't actually like address it. It almost makes me feel like they were planning another one after this. There isn't a fourth one, is there? There's no way. I would know. Would I? I don't know. They seem to have a very nice life, and I hope he continues to get better. And I don't know why I'm saying this as if he's a real person. That's where my brain is now. Thank you all so much for following me along this journey with the 50 Shades series. If you are interested in me looking at the fanfiction, make sure to like this video. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for my Patreon supporters and everybody who's liked these videos. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you're doing well in these times. Have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all later. God damn you please, Mrs. Robinson. Jail will hold a place for those who do what you do, what you do.